Well. It's Tuesday, September 24th. It's 7 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm Bob Harris. This is the Audible YouTube channel. It's time to go on the hot seat. Firstfootballguys.com. That's the website, as you all know. I appreciate you joining me here every Tuesday at this time. Also on Saturdays, 11 a.m. Eastern Time for the Ask Me Anything live stream. Hit the subscribe button, the notification bell, all the YouTube-y stuff that we love. Then hit the like button and feel free to dislike us as well because we're grown-ups. Well, Stacy is. Half of us are grown-ups, so we can take it. So happy to see everyone here. Happy to have my guest today, one of my favorite peeps out there. You know her from Fantasy and Frames, now player profiler. Stacy Perez. You follow her on the X Machine at Stacy_Perez83. She is super smart. She's a lawyer. She's an agent, an NFL agent, registered, and also chops up the fantasy football. And happy to see everyone out in the crowd. Good to see you. Sorry, Brad, Brad's having a hard time keeping up because this is like Cecil and Sig's channel. But basically, I've been invited in to have fun. So appreciate the grace there, Brad. And we are your only hope. There's no doubt about it. Someone had a Yoshi comment up here. I got to say, Stacey, I started out my pros with Joe's team struggled the first 2 weeks. Last night, we finished strong with 2 Yoshi touchdowns and Jaden Daniels to get our first win. So super happy about that. How's your season going so far?
So far, so good. I'm probably about like half and half. There's some teams that have really just, gotten hit by the injury bug pretty hard. And then there's some that are, like surprisingly, I'm doing okay. So like speaking of Yoshi, I'm trying to find him because I want to see if I have him in my pros versus Joe's. I must have missed him there. I think I definitely have him in something else I think that we did together. But man, I have loved Andre Yeshivas since last season, and I'm just gonna say that I was just a little bit early on him last year. So now it's finally coming in.
Do you feel like that's something we do a lot? Is fantasy analysts trying to be a little ahead of the curve? You find yourself about a year away from some of the group, like you're always a year ahead, and then you feel stupid, and then the next year when they crush, you're going, but wait, I like them already. It was great. So what are some of your observations so far this year, other than tight ends are a miserable hellhole that nobody deserves?
Oh my God, the tight end thing. And I've been so hot on tight ends this year, like doing a lot of bully tight end builds. And man, I feel dumb. It has been rough, Bob. Some other observations. It's kind of like the guys that you're not expecting, right? The teams that you're not expecting to do well are the ones that are doing well. Like, look at the Steelers. They're undefeated. Like, who would have thought that? The Seahawks. Like, are you kidding me? I wouldn't have. If you had told me a few weeks ago, like pick who's going to be undefeated by week 3, I would have said not either one of those two teams. So it just seems like, I think everything will even out and it will be fine. Everybody's got to, get in the groove again. It'll be okay.
I'm a big believer that things will eventually normalize and we'll get some, the outcomes we expect for the most part come true. Like if you look at the top tight ends this week, it's ridiculous. Dallas Goedert, Cole Kmet, Jake Ferguson, Tyler Conklin, Dalton Kincaid. Hello, where have you been? Noah Fant, Cade Otton, Bretton Strange, Nick Vannett, Zach Ertz, Mike Gesicki, Josh Wild. There's your top 12. Kyle Pitts right outside there. But even the quarterbacks. So like we look at the top just for week 3, Josh Allen right where he should be. Dak, hey, good game by him. Jaden Daniels, as I expected all along. Brock Purdy, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow. But Malik Willis, Andy Dalton, Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones, and Bo Nix in our top 12 this week. So a lot to sort out. And I think some of this is going to shade the way we approach our free agency. How much should we let some of these spike performances? We look at the Andy Dalton situation, for example. I mean, clearly, if you're in a super flex or 2 quarterback leagues, you're going to be on him like a duck on a June bug. But if you're in a regular 1 quarterback league, how eager are you?
Yeah, I don't know that I'm starting Andy Dalton in a regular quarterback league unless things have gone terribly, terribly awry for you. I have one league, Bob, where I had Jordan Love and Bryce Young, right? What are you going to do? So, at that point, I'm probably starting Andy Dalton. I feel a little bit more comfortable with Sam Darnold until there comes a time where he hopefully doesn't go back to the old Sam Darnold. Hopefully this is a new, refreshed Sam Darnold, but I would feel a little bit more comfortable starting him. I think that offense is a lot better than the Carolina offense. But if you're in Superflex, you're absolutely starting these guys. You're starting Geno, you're starting Sam, you're starting Darnold. I don't know about Malik Willis. I think Jordan Love might come back pretty soon.
I think you might
But
do.
that's been a pleasant surprise, though.
But I think, that's one of the things you're trying to sort out as you work on the free agent, as you prepare to hit the waiver wire, is what are mirages, what are not, what are real opportunities, what are not. I think Andy Dalton has a real opportunity, right? I mean, I don't see them changing. So if Justin Fields is available right now, you mentioned Pittsburgh, right? So if Justin Fields is available right now, and he is in a lot of sleeper leagues, I noticed like 20, almost 30% of sleeper leagues, he's available. Should he be available?
I think he, you should go get him. I don't think he should be available. I think they're doing, very unexpectedly very well there. And I like what has been going on with him. He's throwing the ball. He's not just relying on the run. And he's getting the ball to Pickens, which is what you want to see. He's getting the ball to Freiermuth. I like these things. And they are playing, I just wrote it down. I think they've got a good matchup next week. Yeah, they're playing the Colts.
Yeah,
so
leaky run defense.
Absolutely.
And they might not have Jalen Warren. Sounds like he'll be out. He's week to week. Najee Harris is nicked up. I'm going to say go out and grab Cordero Patterson based on this matchup as well for a 1 week stopgap if you don't have anything else going on. Because if there is, like Cordero Patterson has been contributing, Arthur Smith knows how to use him. So the matchup is great. I think Justin Fields is a guy that should be, and he should be. If you're spending money, right, like right now, and people are not realize what's going on with him, and like most leagues we're in, he's not going to be available. But again, on Sleeper, he's widely available. Is he in a super flex league? Is he a 25 to 50% player?
I think he is, because you're going to be able to use him the entire season. You're not just going out and blowing all the fab money that you have on a player that's only going to be there for 1 week. You're going to be getting more use out of him. I think he keeps this job. When Russell Wilson gets back to normal and off the injuries, I think it's Justin Fields' job to lose at this point. So if you're going to go out and get him, I think that's fine to spend that kind of money on him. Superflex, even in a one quarterback league, I think he's fine to go ahead and start up now, just with that upside. But absolutely in a super flex league, I think you should probably spend a little bit more if you're in a super flex, I think, for Fields.
Yeah, that doesn't seem unreasonable. And we'll see, like I'm with you. I think he holds on to this job as long as he holds on to this job, but they do have the built-in excuse, right? Like if things go south, I think it would take more than a one loss. But if, there was an extended streak, they could say, oh, look, Russell's better now. Let's go. We've been waiting for this all along. Let's ride, Russell.
Right. And, they haven't really been putting up a ton of points either. I mean, I think that's it's always like one of those Steelers games where they're probably going to win, I don't know, 20-17 or something like that. So you're not expecting him to go out there and just blow the top off the game. Right. So I think as long as he keeps doing what he's doing, I think he's going to hang on to that job. I think that's a smash. If he's available in your league, go run, don't walk, go get him right now.
Yeah, I'm with you. There are other quarterbacks available. You mentioned Geno Smith, and you mentioned Sam Darnold. There's no way Sam Darnold should be available even in one quarterback leagues, correct?
No, there's no way he should. If you're playing in a league where he's still available, I'd love to play with you, because that sounds like some other people in your league maybe aren't paying attention.
Yeah, this is we're in crazy zone right now. If that's the case, he's the only quarterback in the NFL with multiple touchdowns every game. So Geno Smith, I feel like the same. I think he should be, if he's available, he shouldn't be. How about a speculative ad? Is it time, like if you're in a super flex or two quarterback league, to start thinking about Drake May?
Oh man. I mean, after that game this week, right, against the Jets, I think, what did Jacoby Brissett do? 3 something fantasy points. I think it was 3.9, something like that. I don't know how you can't start thinking about it. And if you wait until they say, hey, we're gonna go ahead and move on to Drake May, it's probably too late at that point to go get him. So if you've got room on I wouldn't add him at the expense of a player who is going to play for you right now and get you points on your roster. But if you have the wiggle room there and you can put him on your roster now, I don't think that's a terrible ad either, because I do think that the time is coming, I think, for Drake May, and you don't want to be late for the train.
Yeah, nobody likes to be, don't miss the bus. Everyone knows that. But also, especially in super aggressive leagues where, you're playing with some really competitive leagues. And if it's a super flex, it probably is. He's not going to last very long. People are going to be making, I'm in leagues where, Michael Penix Jr. is not available. And I don't know how many how many bad Kirk Cousins games it might take to get him on there. So
I went and grabbed him in the fishbowl.
right, for sure, like a league like that, for sure. I mean, you want to have him as well. Hey, CJ, who dat? We're probably not going to do any lineup questions today. That's going to be a very tough decision every week. Hit me on Saturday for the Ask Me Anything live stream, and I will absolutely answer your sit start questions a little early in the week for that. A lot of things yet to come in the week, like the waiver wire. So the running backs always popular. Stacy, everyone's after them. None's going to be more popular, I think, than Bucky Irving. We've seen the rushing shares go from 30% to 40% to 50% this week.
Yep.
This looks like it's heading for a permanent condition. You're in that area. What are you hearing and what are you seeing?
Oh man. Okay. So let's rewind a little bit back to training camp. I got to go to training camp twice this season, and I watched specifically Bucky Irving, Jalen McMillan, like some of those guys. And I was really impressed with Bucky Irving. I just thought he looked really dynamic, even, a couple weeks ago. And now Todd Bowles has come out and says that he's going to earn more carries. He's looked like the more dynamic back. Okay. And White does have a little bit of an edge in the passing game right now, but I still think Bucky is going to be the guy who kind of takes over that. White's been incredibly inefficient. He's getting 2.1 yards per, attempt at this point. Bucky's getting 6.2. Obviously Bucky's got 154 yards rushing, which is way more than White has right now with that 66. So I think it's only a matter of time really before Bucky really takes that over. I think it's always going to be, White's always going to be there, but he's probably my number one ad this week.
Right. And I think I would agree with you. Is it like reasonable to say for right now that they're both like flex level plays? Like, is this not quite out of the running back 2 range and into flex? Because he is going to have that receiving role. I'm pretty sure that he's going to hang on to that because he's very good at it. But man, he hasn't hit the hole. And the whole reason Bucky Irving is there is because he hasn't hit the hole. And I think Bucky Irving was meant to be a message to do that. And he has not heard the message. So maybe he's not capable of it. So I think you're right. And I do think he is the top ad. Quick question from Angie we had here, but going back to the quarterbacks, will we pick up Fields or Geno to play over Anthony Richardson this week against Pittsburgh? Bad feeling. He is going to be facing TJ Watt. Where are you at on that?
Yeah, you're definitely not. I wouldn't start Anthony Richardson against Pittsburgh. So I feel you there. Yeah. I think Fields. I think it's got to be Fields for me. I like Geno. He did have a little bit of rougher time though this past week against Miami. But I just feel like Fields has kind of got a little bit more momentum going. He's definitely got more upside than Geno does. There with his legs. For me, I think I'm going to go grab Geno instead. Or not Geno. I'm sorry. Grab Fields instead of Geno. But yeah, let's go with Fields.
Yeah, I'm not against that. I'm double checking the schedule. Seattle's got a Monday night game against Detroit. Fairly tough defense, fairly tough pass rush. So I'm with you. Also, I'm probably still starting Anthony Richardson. I'm not ready to quit him yet. But like if I felt that way, if that was my sense, that's definitely direction I would go, Angie. So thank you for the question. We appreciate that. Back to the running backs because I think there's another guy out there that we're all going to be, or is going to be widely chased if he's available. Braylon Allen from New York Jets. Like I said something on the daily podcast. You should all be listening to that every morning. It comes out at 5:30 a.m. 10 minutes of just some fantasy chat. Me, Mike Dempsey often with me. I said something like that in hindsight. I said, oh, maybe I shouldn't have framed it like that. And it turns out maybe I should have. I called it a timeshare. The Breece Hall, Braylon Allen timeshare. I don't know. Does 5 to 10 touches a week? Does that make it a timeshare, or is he a standalone piece to you yet, or is we still have to wait and see how that goes?
I think he's on the cusp of being a standalone piece. I think depending on how you constructed your roster, if you've drafted heavy running or a wide receiver and you kind of waited on those running backs, maybe you do have to start him as the RB2, and that could be okay. Because I think he's there. I think he's got flex. He's probably low in RB2. He's definitely got a lot of upside quality to him. He's looked absolutely electric every chance he's gotten. I feel like he and Bucky, have really come out and kind of taken this rookie running back class, more so than some other people that we thought were maybe going to be the stars of the show. But I mean, he's looked great. He's kind of got that dual threat ability as well. He's got 45 yards in the air. He got a receiving touchdown the other day. He's been really efficient. I mean, he's getting 5.1 yards per attempt. So Obviously, Brees is the guy there. He's never going to supplant Brees Hall unless something tragic happens. But I feel like he's a guy you can go grab and not necessarily in a handcuff kind of way.
Yeah, I think if you have Brees Hall, you're a little upset that he's not getting 1,000% of everything. He's still getting enough, people. Don't panic yet. He's still getting 20 touches a game. He's been very good, very productive with it. So don't panic about that. I think Royal Slade, I think there's some chatter out here, and we'll just address it. It seems like there's some questions about Sam Laporta's status. He is day-to-day, so it was a low sprain. I would be nervous too, but I think he has a chance. But Monday night game, go out and invest in some pieces. We've got another doubleheader. So you can get somebody on Seattle, Noah Fant, maybe floating around out there. We'll talk about some of those tight ends here in a little bit. And Andrea's mad because we're not getting to the available players yet. We're digging deeper, Andrea. We're working on it. So Andrea's problem is she plays in super competitive leagues. And also she has probably picked up everybody who's available because she's on top of things. I know her well. So going down, Cam Akers was serviceable last week. We don't know really. It seems like Joe Mixon could miss more time, but nothing is certain. Is he like, if you're the Mixon owner, you probably should have already landed him, but is he still worth something as a standalone piece?
So I think for me with Cam Akers, so I was taking a look at, I hadn't actually looked into a ton of Cam Akers until tonight, but I did. And, he only had 9 points last week, but it was against Minnesota. They've got a stellar defense. Brian Flores has really got those guys going. So they're very tough. And Houston just had a rough day all around. They play Jacksonville next week. Okay. Jacksonville has allowed the 4th most fantasy points per game to opposing teams and running backs. I feel like this is a fire him up game. If Mixon is not there, I feel like you go take the over on whatever the rushing yards is going to be for Houston in this game. I don't know necessarily that I want to hang on to him. I don't think it's a long ad necessarily if Mixon comes back, but I think he's definitely an ad for next week.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable enough. Let's dig a little deeper here. And I don't think Kareem Hunt is digging deeper. He has now been promoted to the active roster. I'm guessing in leagues most of the people in this chat are in. He was grabbed up last week. Certainly in all the leagues that I'm in with the people in this chat, he was grabbed up on the cheap. If he is available, I thought Carson Steele was serviceable, but he's certainly not high end. What do you think about Kareem Hunt?
Yeah.
And
okay. So
let me throw something in there. We could have, Clyde Edwards-Helaire back in the mix soon. Is he worth a speculative ad if you can't get Hunt?
Oh, man. Okay. So if you had asked me before the game last week, I would have been banging the drums for Carson Steele. I was drafting Carson Steele back right before the season started. Super high on him. I think what really did it for me was that preseason game where he stiff-armed that guy like a la Derrick Henry. And it just made me want to take him everywhere. But, he was getting the lion's share. He got 8.4 points last week, 72 yards. Think they're going to use Pirine a little bit more in the passing game. I don't necessarily love now that they've added Kareem Hunt, right? Because we had Carson Steele, we had Samaje Pirine. Neither one of them got double-digit points. Even though it was just the two of them there and they were utilizing them. It just didn't seem like they could really get it going, get those fantasy points for you. So now if we go add Kareem Hunt in the mix, I just don't like it, Bob. Honestly, I don't like any of them at this point. I feel like I still feel like I'm going with Steele if I absolutely have to start somebody just because of the position that he's in, and he's probably still should be receiving the majority of the work. But I don't know that I like any of those guys, even CEH at this point.
So there's a player out there that's kind of floating between the practice squad and the roster, Tyler Batty, for the Denver Broncos. Are we interested in him?
Bob, can I shout out to my fantasy football partner, Jim Bednar, real quick, because he was on Tyler Batty 2 years ago and absolutely loves this player. So he's another one who was not wrong, just way early. I don't know that I'm going to get Tyler Batty just yet. I don't really like what's going on with that Denver backfield. Javonte Williams has really struggled so far. So is Jaleel McLaughlin. Tyler Batty, obviously, he did lead the team in yards, over 70 yards, or not. Yeah, I think right at 70 yards. I'm not super excited about going to get him. I don't think I'm spending a lot of fab on that. That might be a player that I pass on just because I don't really love that backfield necessarily in Denver. Sorry, Jim, can't quite take him just yet, but noted that you have been high on Tyler Batty since before it was a thing.
Just Royal Slade, who is finally tuned into all things Patriots, is predicting a Drake May start week 5. I think that is not unreasonable. I think it'll be another week of him. And also, I'm seeing some Bucky's talk in the chat, and like where I am, Bucky's is a big deal here in
Yeah.
Texas. I don't know if anyone, they do have very comfortable bathrooms. They also have like Bucky nuggets and other tasty treats that are quite delightful, including sandwiches. This is all true. So
I feel like there's an opportunity for a lot of merch from Bucky Irving right now. Like if he was still in college, there'd be an NIL deal like in the making or something like that.
So here it's like, so we did Chris Brooks last week.
Yeah.
But he is available. I wonder if he's going to be a fit. We'll talk about the other piece there though quickly. Emmanuel Wilson in Green Bay got some run last week. He's more of a receiving back, but it seems like he's going to have a role. Is he a worthwhile pickup?
Oh, talk Packers to me, Bob. All right. So he is only rostered in 6% of sleeper leagues and only 2.1% in Yahoo and ESPN leagues. So he's basically free, guys. Y'all can go out there and just grab him. He pretty much shared the load with Josh Jacobs. He had 12 carries to Jacobs 14. Wilson was more effective, though, with the yards and used way more efficiently in the pass game. At one point that he had 35. He had that huge touchdown, running. I think it was, I forget exactly how many yards, but it looked absolutely great. I feel like as long as Malik Willis is back there, if he doesn't play against Minnesota, they're definitely going to be leaning on that run game, right? That's a huge rivalry game for them, even though they are still in Green Bay. I think if Malik Willis is back there, I think you're definitely adding Emmanuel Wilson. You're probably not going to know whether or not Jordan Love's going to play till after waivers go, but he's somebody I'm grabbing, I'm stashing. Marshawn Lloyd is somebody that I loved in the offseason, is on the IR. We have no idea when he's coming back. If he's coming back after those 4 games pass, I have no clue. Right now, I think Emmanuel Wilson has cemented himself as the number 2 running back in Green Bay. I absolutely go get him. If you can grab him, go get him.
Yeah, Chris Brooks was brought up. Matt and I talked about him on our podcast. It shall go unnamed on the airwaves, so we don't have to do a sorry Joe. But I do think that he is I like him as a player. I just wonder if he's ever going to get himself. It's going to take the right circumstances for him to have success on that. And there was a question out here, and I thought it was interesting. Let's see if I can find it. Someone wanted to know what kind of running back you could get for Malik Nabers, and I'm thinking whatever one you want.
Yeah,
like if you're just separate from free agency, looking at a trade situation. What level of player would you be asking for Malik Willis if you were looking for running back?
Oh my gosh. For Malik, holy cow. He's coming out odds on favorite to be offensive rookie of the year right now. This is a guy that he has looked every bit the stud that he was promised. I think you're right, Bob. I think you can get anybody. The immediate one that came to mind was Saquon, and not just because he's a former Giant, but if you wanted to go get Saquon, I think that's a reasonable trade you could probably make for Nabers.
I'm with Jay here. I'm not trading this guy as a chance to be running back 1. Another player I wanted to talk about at the position we had a question about, Roschon Johnson, dropped after being inactive. I would go ahead and grab him. How do you feel about him? What level are you bidding on? I'm maybe a 10%-ish of my fab.
Yeah, I'm not spending a lot on Roschon Johnson. I get it. I know he's the top rusher. It seems like Herbert's really been the one who's getting those goal line looks. Swift is inefficient, but they did pay him, so I can't imagine they're not going to be using him. So right now it's kind of a really ugly 3-headed monster there, and I don't know that I really like any of those guys. So if you are going to go out there, risk it a little bit for Roschon. Yeah, I think 10% is probably fine. I don't blow your fab on Roschon Johnson, please.
So Kobe has troubles here because he is heavy receiver heavy and running back 4.
Oh my goodness.
I would honestly, I would be trying to get something for Higgins and see if I could get a serviceable starter for Higgins. Right. I don't know that you can, but after that, I'm not sure I want to get rid of any of these guys. Here's what we've learned in recent years. Yeah, it's a half-point PPR. So I get that there's maybe a little less emphasis. Targets are not necessarily worth more than carries in this league. Yeah. So I'm not, I would start with Higgins, but if I'm trading any of those other players, I'm asking for a running back 1.
Oh yeah. I was about to say, just because you can trade doesn't mean you have to. You put together, Kobe over here, you got AJ Brown, Rashee Rice, would you have Nabers, and there we go.
Higgins.
Put together an absolute stud wide receiver room,
and you can't play them all though, right?
Well, that's true. So I don't know. I'm not sure if he's playing in a 3 setup with a flex or just a 2. But I think, yeah, I mean, Higgins is obviously the low man on the totem pole there, especially after last night. But
Yeah, would love
I
for
don't
him to
know.
have a great game before I tried to trade him, though. And all
Oh,
these others are coming off,
yeah,
like Nabers' value is never going to be higher, but also
no.
I don't know that
Nabers
it
was?
diminishes. I think I'm with Jay here, who thinks
Yeah,
he might lead the league in targets this year.
yeah.
And as somebody who's been pounding the
Mhm.
table for him all along, I would have a hard time letting go of him. Kid Kobe, I know, like if you're in desperate times, you do have other assets there. We don't know how long AJ Brown's going to be out, so I wouldn't be getting rid of my top asset.
Yeah,
I'd
no.
work with T. Higgins. I would be looking at teams with running back. Go out and look at everyone's roster, see who has the running backs, the surpluses, and may need help at wide receiver, and work that direction before you let go of a truly valuable asset. Jason has to special teams defense currently has the Packers. They perform well, but I stick there with them against the Vikings and the mighty Sam Darnold. Or would you pick up Tennessee or possibly New Orleans? I tend to pick on the quarterbacks when I'm like if I'm streaming defenses. So, I mean, looking at the schedule, who does he got? New Orleans and Tennessee. New Orleans against Atlanta. Man, it's a
Yeah.
possibility.
Oh, the Titans are playing the Dolphins on Monday night. The
That's
first
a
game
good
on Monday night.
possibility. I'd probably
There you
pick
go.
on whoever is starting at
Yeah,
quarterback for the Miami Dolphins, whether
right.
it is Skylar Thompson, whether it's Tim
Mhm.
Boyle, maybe Tyler Huntley.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I tend
I'd
to
probably
think it
get.
might be Tyler Huntley this week.
I think they might. It's possible.
Yeah.
They kind of hinted at it today
Mhm.
that it's not outside the realm of possibility. So that wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah,
So
I'm going
yeah, interesting
Tennessee.
question.
Tennessee without or whoever's playing Cleveland at this point.
Ugh. What are you doing? What are you doing with what are you doing with Deshaun Watson if you somehow drafted him and thought, wow, here we
Oh,
go. I mean,
Lord have
he's
mercy.
droppable right now, right?
Oh, absolutely. He is 100% droppable at this point. I think at this point, if you're dropping Deshaun Watson, let's go grab Geno, go grab Justin Fields, go grab Sam Darnold. Like those are immediate upgrades to Deshaun Watson.
So a little quick question about
Ooh,
dropping Baker Mayfield for Geno Smith to get him on the waiver wire. To me, that's a little more aggressive than I want to go.
yeah.
I know it was a bad game for Baker, but like it seems like, well, for starters, the Pat Surtain cap
Mhm.
on Mike Evans didn't help things. Yeah,
No.
I'm probably not making this move.
No, I don't think so either. I think you keep Baker there. He was pretty efficient last year. Had very serviceable numbers. He was actually tied with points per game, like really close to where Patrick Mahomes ended up at the end of the season. So
Yeah, I'm with you there. Can't
mhm.
get a good read on whether to drop Pacheco to pick up Bucky or Braylon. I have a shot at bench. I have a short bench and no IR spot.
Oof,
Pacheco, it was a clean break,
yeah.
but it was a break, and he had to have surgery. Do you think he's going to come back and like who we've seen other players come back from similar injuries and have a hard time? It took Tony Pollard, he said, until like
Yeah.
week 10 of the next year for that to happen. So his happened later in the playoffs,
Yeah.
but I like if you need help right now, I'm not against dropping Pacheco if you need
Right.
help right now.
Yeah. I think that's the right answer as much as I hate that because I love Pacheco, but given the injury, given that we don't really know the timeline for him, I actually just heard Stephania Bell say today, it's the exact same thing that you just said, Bob. Like, is similar to Tony Pollard injury. We really don't know what he's going to look like when he does come back. It's
Right.
probably not going to be the same Pacheco that we're used to seeing. He runs so hard, and it's such a like different angle than everybody else runs. I can't imagine that doing that isn't going to put some pressure on that leg. So yeah, if you've got a short bench, no IR, I don't have a problem with you doing it. That one hurts you a little bit, but you got to do what you got to do.
All right, before we get out of the running back section here, I wanted to get a quick question. I mentioned Cordero Patterson. What is the fab budget you would spend on him? I'm going to go
Mm,
up to 10% probably at this point, but not much more.
No, not much more than that. I mean, unless there's something really bad with Najee going on, Jalen Warren is still there. And then it just the thing we say every year, Bob, you can't trust Arthur Smith. So they're going to use him one week, and then you'll get excited, and then the next week it's going to be somebody else.
Well, if
So
I trust Arthur Smith for anything, it's turning Cordero Patterson into a thing.
yeah,
That's like been his one
yeah.
magic trick during his whole time. Would we rather add a Johnson or Hunt? I think that's an easy one for me. How do you feel about that, Stacey?
I think if I have to add one of those, it's probably going to be Roshan. Although I don't like adding either one, but I think I'm going to go give Roshan the edge here. I think Hunt, there's just too much else going on there, and he's been out there, waiting for a team to sign him for a while. Roshan's been at least there with the team. He's integrated in that offense already, and he already had one top rushing week. So
I
think
see it slightly differently. I think like if you're swinging, like if you're like hoping that it's like if you were hoping one of these might turn into the lead back, who's more likely?
Ooh. Yeah,
I
I mean,
like
Hunt could do it. Hunt because Hunt has done it before
right.
and has done it with that team before. Roshan has not done that yet. So yes, that makes a lot of sense too.
By the way, if you're just tuning in, she's Stacey Perez. You know her from Fantasy and Frames and Player Profiler. If you don't have anything to do after this show, I just got a notification on my computer here to watch Fantasy and Frames live in 30 minutes, the Fantasy and Frames Waiver Wire show, hosted by Stacey Perez. So you can dial in and jump over there as soon as I turn her loose here.
Please.
And hope you do that for sure. So here we go. I thought I saw Kid Kobe had another had a possibility here. What was it? I see it. It was Brian Robinson for T. Higgins.
Oh, that's good.
I think that's
okay. I think you could do that.
Oh no, that was Jay Brenneman suggesting it. I would love that. Okay. I think that's like I would make that offer.
Absolutely.
By the way, Austin Eckler in the protocol, so he'll be out of the way here. And it sounds like like this might be not a great concussion because he had to stay in Cincinnati overnight.
Right.
And
yeah, not because he was looking really he was looking very spry, very like the Austin Eckler of old. So that's really disappointing. I hope he makes it back because he was doing really well there in Washington.
Yeah, so let's jump into the wide receivers a little bit. I mean, obviously everyone's going to be keen on Juwan Jennings, but does he have a shelf life, right? Like at some point Debo's going to be back. Until he is, I mean, Juwan Jennings could apparently win games for you. He said last week. So what kind of bid are you looking to spend on him? Is he more than a 10 or 15% player to you?
I think so. I think I'm spending a little bit more on Juwan Jennings, especially if you're playing in those PPR formats, right? Because, I mean, Brock Purdy is going to Juwan Jennings. Brandon Ayuk has not looked right since he got back. Since the season started, we don't know when Debo's coming back. We've got George Kittle missing time too. And Juwan Jennings has always kind of been that sneaky guy, that they bring in out of nowhere that's going to go get a touchdown. I mean, he got a touchdown and threw for a touchdown in the Super Bowl. So he is the guy that they kind of use off their bench to throw in there. And he's always got that upside. They do look for him. Obviously, we saw that, this past week, even more so than normal. I think for me, I'm spending a little bit more on Juwan Jennings. Look, guys, he's not going to put up 46 points for you every single week, but I mean, he could absolutely, give you 15, 20, I think is reasonable for him as long as the rest of the players are out.
All right. Had a question here I saw on defensive lineman. I'll just go ahead and throw it out there. So Craig Hayward to cover for Breston Buckner. Should I drop him for Devontae Wyatt? Yes. I like Devontae Wyatt, so I would probably do that. If you're a Packers fan, you would probably do that too.
Absolutely. Excuse me, Bob. I was going to say, you do not want my defensive advice. I am not the IDP kind of girl. If I'm in an IDP league, I'm drafting players whose names I know. That's all I've got for you.
Is it baddie for $1 everywhere? Everyone's happy about that. And Cecil is dropping hints about Blake Watson to Denver. That is a player to watch. We, with Audric Estime on IR. So, top wide receivers after 3 weeks. I mean, I think Malik Nabers is probably one of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Rashee Rice, Chris Godwin, JJ, I mean, has looked amazing. So all of you who got Justin Jefferson is with your 8th or 9th pick because everybody else was too scared. Good for you.
Right. I keep saying Bob Harris, this guy I heard of, keeps telling me not to worry as much about quarterbacks as we do when we're drafting really great wide receivers. Mm-hmm. It turns out that's true. So, yes, Juwan Jennings rocked it, though. Darnell Mooney in Atlanta, similar player, but a longer shelf life. Would you pay a little more for him?
I would actually play a little more for him. I got to scroll up here on my notes because I had some notes on Darnell Mooney. So he is only 44% rostered in sleeper leagues right now. He's on the field. I looked at his snap percentage. He's on the field 95%, 100%, 93% of each of these games. Second in target only to Drake London. He's leading the team in yards. They're playing the Rams this week. Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm going into my Rams notes now. But Darnell Mooney, I mean, Kirk Cousins obviously has a connection with him. They're going to keep throwing to him.
Playing the Saints this week.
Oh, Saints. Thank you. Yes. As long as, they're all of us Kyle Pitts drafters are screaming into the void right now. But Darnell Mooney is a guy that I'm absolutely spending some money on. He's been consistent these last 3 games, and I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Yeah, it's Darnell Mooney and Ray-Raymond McCloud ahead of Drake London and Kyle Pitts right now.
And
It seems like
that's just insane.
putting up Royal Slade, wondering if Chris Gonzalez covers Ayuk or Jennings this week. I think it's a fair question. I think it's probably Ayuk, but I'm not 100% sure. Honestly, that'd be interesting to find out. Here we go. Ryan Dubofsky, should I trade Josh Jacobs and Kelsey for Achane? I have Kincaid. Not against it. Like, I don't know that we've seen what Travis Kelsey is yet. I mean, if you're of the belief that some out there are expressing that he's just plumb lost it, he fell off a cliff. I think the underlying metrics to his game suggest that he's going to have some better games ahead. Unlike Mark Andrews, who I have no idea what's going on with. So I don't know. That seems like you're giving up a little much, but you do have Kincaid, and I think Achane has a legitimate shot with the quarterback situations there of being the busiest guy in that offense. So
and with Mostert being out too. So I don't hate that, but I mean, I think you're right about Kelsey. I mean, he's not doing great, but he still is Travis Kelsey. I think when Patrick Mahomes said during his press conference that, like, they had a bunch of, plays dreamed up for him, but then, it's 2 or 3 guys on Kelsey every single time. So you can't do much when you've got that much coverage on you. And it's Travis Kelsey, guys. He's going to be fine. He's going to break out just like last year, right? He ended the season as
he's off to a slower start this year, but if he had scored that touchdown, was brought down to 1 2 weeks ago, had the 41-yard play called back, we'd be having a different conversation slightly about him.
And who's you going to put in there for him, right? Like at this point with the tight end position the way it is.
Yeah, it's a mess.
Right.
I would say I would be buying Travis Kelsey if someone's looking to sell in desperation. Mark Andrews, I'm not as sure. Again, I just like the usage there is so weird. Usage there is not weird for Kelsey. Jonathan Brooks, eligible to come off the non-football injury list after this week. So maybe give him a week or 2 to ramp up. But the discussion by Dave Canales in August was he'd be ready week 3 or 4. So they put him on IR, obviously the outside end of that, but he could come in fairly soon. And so I think that's someone I'd want to have. But also a related question, how much are we spending on how much fab would you drop on Chuba Hubbard right now?
After this week's game, he didn't have
too much.
I would probably spend too much, but you know what though? I was somebody who was drafting Chuba literally everywhere. So I'm a big Chuba fan. I think finally now with Andy Dalton there, I think that entire offense gets a boost. And I love what that does for Chuba in particular. So I would probably spend 25%, Bob. You think that's too much?
That's probably more than I would spend, but it's not unreasonable. I think like we're all pretty enthusiastic about after what we saw about Carolina. I think like Deontay Johnson, I was going to be a must start now. I think Andy Dalton in a 2-quarterback league. I think Chuba Hubbard now is a player. If you were like feeling like you needed to put him in lineups, you feel better about doing that now. So I think that's kind of where I'm at on him. I don't want to force him in based on one game, but if I had to play him, I'd feel a little better about it. Exactly. Josh Jacobs is going to continue to score. There's no doubt about it. He's been very busy. Mark Andrews, Andrea, welcome to my world.
Yeah. That was brutal.
Seen a lot of people put Kincaid over Kelsey in PPR, or where do they rank the rest of season tight ends? Like I'm still like they're like to this point up until last night, Dalton Kincaid was a huge disappointment.
He really was. And I mean, I had a lot of Laporte, a lot of Kincaid this year. I think they might end up being pretty close towards the end of the season. I liked what I saw with Kincaid last night. So if that's any indication and that keeps up, then I could definitely see a scenario where we have Kincaid over Kelsey at the end of the season. But it may end up being closer than we
did we like what we saw with Kincaid, or was it just Josh Allen? Does it matter? Is one?
I was just so excited for Kincaid to like catch a ball that I just like. Of course, on the day that I take him out of my lineup in the fishbowl, where you get a bajillion points for tight ends. But maybe I was just overexcited that he was actually in the game.
He spread it around an awful lot. I want to get some other receivers. We're talking about the Carolina Panthers. There are 2 receivers there. Adam Thielen on IR, so he's going to be out a little while. So how do we feel about Xavier Leggett and Jonathan Mingo?
Yeah, so I was a big Mingo fan last year, but I got to tell you, I really like Xavier Legette. Probably like him a little bit better. Going to give him the edge over Mingo at this point, especially with Thielen being on the IR. Legette has even he's given you points. It's been very minimal, but he's given you points with Bryce Young back there. I think that's only going to increase now that Andy Dalton is there. You got to let somebody a little bit more competent at quarterback. He's a flex for me if you've got to start him. I'd probably like to see like another game out of it before I feel a little bit more comfortable with it, but you're going to go out and get them. I definitely rank Legette over Mingo.
Yeah, first seems reasonable enough. So let's look at the tight end position. First and foremost, everyone who dropped Cole Kmet is scrambling to get him back. Are you scrambling with them?
I don't think I had a ton of Cole Kmet actually, because I was a little concerned about how things were going to shake out in that offense there with so many weapons at receiver. But you got to say Cole Kmet, right, coming out. What did they say, Bob, about veteran tight end being a rookie quarterback's best friend? So let's go get Cole Kmet. He's only rostered in 33.6% of leagues. It's the tight end position, right? So if you got somebody who their quarterback is definitely going to be throwing to that. Now, look, you're not getting 25.5 points every single week because I don't think Caleb Williams is throwing for that much every single week. But I think he's a lot more viable than some of these other guys that we have, and he'll probably be a lot more consistent than some of our other options that we have to get on the waivers.
Right. I have I want to see something. I need more Keenan Allen news right now.
Yeah.
Keenan Allen. I don't want to be like a conspiracy theorist here, but some things that you start putting, reading the tea leaves. And so he went from, so there's Allen coming back. So here's the thing, Royal. And I'm hoping I'm wrong here, but we saw the injury report last week. He was out Wednesday with the heel, out Thursday with the heel, out Friday with the heel and a personal issue. Last time that happened in Chicago was like Deontay Foreman went off the rails and got benched for a couple weeks. And so this, I don't know that this is a repeating pattern, but it's something I'm watching closely.
Yeah.
And we'll see if he's back in practice on Wednesday. Maybe everything's copacetic and I'm like a crazy conspiracy theorist, but I've got an eye on this one for sure.
No, I do too. And I think it's great for Roma Dunze as well, because I think the longer Allen stays out, the more of a connection you're getting between a Dunze and Caleb Williams. So I love that for him too. I go get Cole Kmet. He's probably, if you're going to add a tight end this week, I think he's probably my first choice.
Well, I think so. If you're in a league with me, you're not adding Tyler Conklin because I drafted him, but Tyler Conklin, I think, is a good addition. We saw the role. We see Aaron Rodgers looking his way. I think Tucker Kraft is an overlooked guy. He got hurt, beat up a little bit in this game, but he is going to be available. It sounds like so.
Okay.
He's out. You're the Packer maven here. He's out producing, or at least getting more playing time than Luke Musgrave by a mile.
He definitely is. And that was kind of a surprise to me. But I like it. I do worry though a little bit there with Malik Willis. All right. I think that's a run offense until Jordan Love comes back. But I do like Tucker Kraft. I think it's just tough, right? Because you do have Luke Musgrave. You've got that competition there with the two of them. There are probably other guys that I would go grab first. But as long as he looks like he's going to be okay with that injury, I definitely think he's definitely one of the ones that I'm looking at for sure.
All right, fair enough. So there those were the ones on my list. Anyone on your list that you feel like we should bring up, or anyone that we didn't hit on that you'd like to hit on before we get to questions? Go ahead.
I've got 3 honorable mentions for you, Bob. Okay, I've got Mike Gesicki from the Bengals, second in the team in targets and yards, 35% rostered. I'll make it short and sweet. We got Zach Ertz on the Commanders. Old man Ertz out there. He's only 21% rostered. Same as above with Mike Gesicki there. Second in team in targets, second in yards. He's been on the field more than 50% of the snaps. And then we got my guy down here in Tampa with Cade Otton. Had 9.5 points on the day, 7 for 47, 8 targets. Only behind Chris Godwin on Sunday. I don't know that if you pick him up, not starting him this week because they're playing Philly. Philly is definitely tough against opposing teams' tight ends, but he is definitely one that you could grab for the long haul. So those are my 3 little extra at the tight end positions.
Yeah, a lot of Gesicki chanting out there, and Mike Fiala, our guest from week 1, would be howling right now, not to, but he's getting his comeuppance. That said, he was the leader of the Hunter Henry hype train this year. So, and by the way, this is Zari Kansas Medium, my colleague from Football Guys. This is a good. I don't know did I be out chasing him? But if I was in a pinch and McBride is out,
Mhm.
this is a reasonable pivot that might help you
Yes.
avoid a 0 if you're coming into a game. You're going, I don't know who else to get. Well,
Yeah, didn't he get a touchdown a couple weeks ago, I think?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
I'm wondering what the target share will be right now, but definitely a guy to watch because McBride is probably going to be out.
Well,
Hunter,
I was going to say he's in protocol, right? I think.
he is in the protocol for sure.
Yeah.
So he's got to work through that, and we'll see if he does. By the way, one more time, Stacey Perez, you can find her at Fantasy and Frames and Player Profiler. You can find her at Fantasy and Frames right after this show. If you need to leave a minute early, let me know, Stacey. I will turn you loose so you can get to your next show. Also on Sundays, tell me what you're doing.
Bob, so
that's true. Tell me what you're doing at Player Profiler.
Yeah, so over on Player Profiler on Sundays at 7:30, right after the late afternoon games and right before Sunday Night Football starts, I'm doing the Sunday night tailgate. And so that is, you get me just talking about the day, reading the tea leaves, kind of channeling my little inner Miss Cleo, Bob, if you remember that reference from back in the day, trying to, figure out what all of our fantasy action means for the weeks going forward. I give you my way too early waiver ad. And then, Bob, this is my favorite part, and it's really cheesy, but I feel like you're going to love it. I give away a special award to the player of the day. And I call it, because we're the tailgate show, I call it the Golden Glizzy Award.
There you go.
Yeah. So
don't be me, eat a weenie.
Yes. So it's a lot of fun. 7:30 over at Player Profiler on Sunday nights.
And by the way, there's a tight end mentioned here, Josh Wiley, waiting in the wings. I mean, we're going deep here. Elijah Higgins, Josh Wiley. So we had a question too. Currently have Evan Ingram. Don't know when he'll be back. Zach Ertz. Should I use my number 2 waiver priority on Cole Kmet? I would not use my number 2 waiver priority on a tight end.
That would be tough. I would wonder what other positions you need help with first. But if Cole Kmet's available, that's so hard with the priorities. Dan, we got to move your league over to a fab for next year. You got to do some fab stuff next year.
Yeah, I'm not burning the priority on a tight end. And especially if I have Zach Ertz, who I think might just be serviceable on a week-to-week basis, right? So
I think he's going to be fine. I mean, don't forget that he's playing there with Cliff Kingsbury that he played with in Arizona too. So, something to think about. Ben Sinnott really hasn't been, like the second coming of Sam Laporta. So I think as long as Ertz there, he's producing. You could do a lot worse.
Right. So there was another name at the tight end position who seemed to, be of some interest this week, mostly because he hurt Mark Andrews, but it was Charlie Kolar. Do you think they still, do you feel like you have a sense of what the Ravens are doing, or does it just seem like a totally rando situation where oh yeah, let's run 22 formation, not use Mark Andrews and pull him out of he had 6 routes on the game, right?
Yeah. It's like the wheel of names. Just spin it and whoever it's going to land on, that's who's going to get the touchdown that day. I can't predict it. I'm not sure. I mean, you have Isaiah Likely just going off in the first week, making everybody, draft him way earlier than you should be. And now Mark Andrews, we have no idea what's going on with him. Is there some leftover issues from that car accident? Is it just a way that they're using him now? Is it just,
or even from last year, right? We were talking about Tony Pollard and taking it till week 10 to get round up. Well, the thing I noticed about Andrews was in the Chiefs game, at the end of the game, you see those Kansas City pass rushers were sucking for wind. Who was more burnt out than they were? Looked like Mark Andrews to me. So, so I have some concerns there. And by the way, the Jaden Daniels, Ertz Daniels stack pairing is perfectly fine. I would hang on there. We got some time for some more questions if you want to jump in. We'll happily take them. I have some more questions though. So and some of the players, what are we doing? Oh, here we go. Sorry. If we knew that Keenan Allen was out, I'd burn it on Kmet. I think that's reasonable. I mean, Gerald Everett is still there. If we knew it, so I'm kind of with you on this. If I want to see what's going on with Keenan Allen, we'll know something tomorrow. I don't know if that's soon enough for people to, depending on your league, if it makes it expedient enough news to make that usable or actionable intelligence. But that's what I'd be waiting for.
Yeah, Bob, that might be the nicest thing anybody's ever said about Gerald Everett is that he's still there.
He's still there. But Shane Waldron seems like, there's been games where he's been on the field more than Kmet. So, hopefully
he's still there.
Slapped Waldron around at some point and said, look, man, we got Cole Kmet.
Exactly.
Some guys like Noah Fant that I mentioned had a really good week for Seattle. I think is he someone that you could play any week?
I don't know if you can play him any week necessarily. He has been on the field a ton. But something that did worry me a little bit because I went back and looked at those percentages there. So we had 75% on the field, 81% on the field, and then only 44% of the snaps was he on the field on Sunday. I mean, that was a DK Metcalf game, total kind of blowout there. 6 for 6 with 60 yards, 15 points, really solid production. He is only averaging 5.8 fantasy points per game. Given that it's the tight end, that's not as bad as it sounds. But still, I think you probably have a few better options there necessarily than Noah Fant. I don't know that he's going to consistently put up. I think he's going to be more boom or bust for you. But I mean, you could also probably say that just about any tight end at this point.
I would tend to agree with that. Some bigger picture questions, Stacey. We were talking. We mentioned the Miami Dolphins.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the quarterback situation is not great. How are we treating this? Like, what are we doing with assets like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle? What kind of decisions are you making? Who are you playing ahead of them? What level of player are you playing ahead of them if you are? And I think it's probably more likely Waddle than Hill, but maybe not.
Yeah. So I have a Fantasy Pros team with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and I'm not real happy about that right now. But I think you can't sit Tyreek Hill, right? Where you drafted him, you probably drafted him 2, 3, 4 probably is the lowest you probably got him. So I think with what you spent on him, you have to play him. And to a certain extent, he probably is quarterback proof, right? Jalen Waddle, I don't know that you can say that at this point. I want to see what Snoop Huntley looks like. I feel like he's probably going to start if we got some more competent quarterback play back there. I think maybe things are a little bit different. If Skylar Thompson had remained, I would say you've got to replace Waddle at this point. You've got to put somebody else there. I'm not sure who else you put there. You're going to have to put somebody. Hopefully you drafted really heavy on wide receiver and you're going to have some more viable options for you. If you went out and you got Jawan Jennings, I mean, I'd probably start Jawan Jennings over Waddle. And I know that sounds really gross, but that is the situation in Miami right now. It is really gross.
Well, I mean, last week it was 15% target shares for both those guys, so that's tough. Will we drop Tyler Algier for Emmanuel Wilson?
I think you could. You could drop him. I think they both have similar roles, right? They're both very usable RB2s. And I'm going to go ahead and say that of Emmanuel Wilson. I'm going to go ahead and give him that crown. He is the RB2 there in Green Bay. But I think, Tyler Algier just continues to be used, just like, when Arthur Smith was there. You could either way. I feel like those are probably going to give you similar outcomes for both those players.
Right, I'm with you, Zara. Huntley is brutal. What is it like? Is he maxed out at like about 170, 180 passing yards? Is the high end on his career? So, I don't have a good feeling about this one. Shakir and Terry McLaurin over Hill.
Oh, Shakir and Terry McLaurin over Hill with Nabers.
That's not bad.
You gotta love what you saw with Terry McLaurin this week on Monday. Like that was. Did you see his little face just light up when he caught that deep ball? Like he just looks the happiest that I've probably ever seen.
Did you see my face light up when he caught that ball? Because I'm invested in that was one of the organic stacks in parts of an organic stack. If you're playing DFS all off season long, you can get McLaurin cheap. You could get Jane Daniels cheaper. You could add Zach Ertz with your 20th pick.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That. Oh yeah. All right. So just another question, just in general on offense. I'm Royal Slade, cover your ears. What are you doing with the Patriots in general? Is there any, is it just Ramondre Stevenson and Hunter Henry, or are you making some speculative ads in the receiving core based on the possibility Drake May might come around?
So I saw in several of my leagues last week where Jalen Polk had been dropped. And I did try to make bids to go grab him on the cheap. You've got Demario Douglas back there. He had a much better day. I was a big Demario Douglas fan coming into the season. I thought that he was going to be the number one. Obviously Polk did end up getting that touchdown. I guess it was week 2, I think. Week 2, maybe. It's hard though without knowing like who Drake May, is like maybe connected with while he's been there in camp and learning the system. I think right now I'm definitely only starting Ramondre and Hunter Henry. I wouldn't have an issue with in deep leagues, and this is just in deep leagues, guys, going and grabbing Polk and Demario Douglas if they're out there for you.
Missed this question earlier. Lazard, Leggett, or Dubs? Who's the priority pickup here?
Dubs for me.
Yeah,
even though it hasn't been great, but when Jordan Love comes back, it will be much better. Life will be much better for Romeo Dubs when Jordan Love comes back.
Talking to Rob Demoski from ESPN a couple weeks ago, and I thought he laid it out nicely. Like, how's this receiving core pecking order work out? And he said Dobbs is the go-to guy for Jordan Love. He's going to be the most targeted. Jaden Reed is the athletic playmaker, and Christian Watson is the big play threat. I think that makes perfect sense.
I think that's exactly dead on.
Did we get this one? I mean, is this one an easy call for you to go Deontay over Zach Moss and Adunze, or are you thinking it through a little more than that?
Oof, that's tough, right? With Andy Dalton being back there now, I mean, I think if Deontay's on your waiver wire, holy cow, you got to go grab him. That would be the best game of his
career. I mean, I don't want to overstate the case, but this is the player they expected to get.
Exactly.
I thought it was interesting. Deontay Johnson's open rate on the ESPN metric is the number one of all wide receivers for the last 2 years.
Is it really?
Number one, right?
I would never guess that.
Right. I was surprised by that as well. So interesting. And maybe he can get a little something done with the red rifle in charge of this offense for a change.
I do like Odunze in the long run, though. Like, I think he's come on much earlier than I thought that he would, and that's probably due to Keenan Allen being absent. But I'd like him a little bit better in the long run.
Yeah, this is probably a Keenan Allen question more than anything. What side you prefer, Gibbs and DJ Moore, or Ayuk, Jacobs, and Terry McLaurin?
Ooh. Oh goodness. I think before the season, I probably would have said I would have gone Ayuk, Jacobs, and Terry. But Ayuk has just not looked like himself. But I mean, even if you take Ayuk out of it, Jacobs and Terry is really tantalizing to take over Gibbs and DJ Moore. Especially because now like, right, we're doing Jaden Daniels versus Caleb Williams here with the DJ Moore and Terry McLaurin. And they looked a little bit more electric to me. So I think I got to go with the Ayuk Jacobs Terry side of that equation.
I would take the extra piece in the chance that Ayuk turns into Brandon Ayuk, the guy they just paid nearly $30 million a year to turn into something. Royal Slade reminds us Kendrick Bourne will be back soon, and that is true. And I think he he looked like the lead threat last year. So we'll see. We need enough quarterback firepower there, and I don't know, like, how is Drake May going to fare behind that offensive line? That's your next assignment, Royal Slade. The next assignment, and Romeo will be better. I think everyone will be a little better. All right, I'm going to let you wind up and get out of here. Once again, tell us everything you're doing.
Yeah. Okay, guys. So I am at Stacey Perez, or at Stacey_Perez 83 over online. You can find me at Fantasy and Frames on Tuesday nights at 8:00. We're doing that Waiver Wire show. Then you can find me on Sunday evenings at 7:30 every Sunday doing the Sunday tailgate with Player Profiler. Other than that, like I said, you can find me everywhere online as I'm at Stacey_Perez 83.
And sometimes you find her on the Football Diehards program on Sirius XM, NFL, and Fantasy Sports Radio. You can catch me there every weeknight except Tuesday. I'm on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 10 to midnight. Saturday, we're on the NFL radio, simulcast on Fantasy Sports Radio, 8 to 11. Sundays, you can catch me with Jeff Mans on the pregame show, 11 to 1. We have a really good time, get a lot of good information in there for you. Also, every morning, catch the Daily Update podcast, me, Mike Dempsey, little 10-minute dose just to get your day started, kind of the things you need to know, and run through a little fantasy analysis on all those. And then check out my Fantasy Notebook on Thursday, my Polarizing Players collaboration with Gary Davenport on Fridays, and my In and Out on Saturdays. This week was a mess, man. I'm sifting through the ashes and trying to come up with some reasonable excuses of why I was so horrible in my selections. I think I've come up with some good answers there, but hoping to do a little better next week. Maybe go back to my week 2 numbers where I was on point. This week was not great, but that's the fun of the In and Out. I'm taking some chances, and sometimes predicting the future is tricky business. As you all know, when you're playing the fantasy football, there can be issues. So, all right, everybody, we'll wrap it up here. Stacey, have a great show tonight. Hope everyone jumps along. Go ahead and jump on out if you'd like, and we'll let you get busy with your next show.
Awesome. Thanks, Bob. See you later. Bye, everybody.
Have
a great week.
Take care. Thanks, Stacey.
Bye.
All right, everybody. So if you have any last questions, I got another minute or two. Otherwise, I will be back on Saturday here every Saturday at 11 a.m. If you have lineup questions, and I know that many of you do. Some of you had them tonight and just like a little too early in the week. Also, again, call up the radio program. We'll answer your lineup questions there. Listen to the podcast every single day. It'll set your day right. I'm in such a good mood early in the day. You'll love it or not. I mean, give it a try. Otherwise, all the associated goodness of football, guys, you don't want to miss out right here on the Audible. Cecil and Sig doing their thing. Sig doing the couch, the fantasy channel with Dave and Alfredo doing great work there. The Dynasty channel, Jeff Bell and Jagger May doing their thing. Joey Wright dancing around. Great pregame show here. So really appreciate y'all coming. We'll see you here next Tuesday, same time for another On the Hot Seat. And I'll see you this Saturday to answer your lineup questions on my Ask Me Anything live stream. All right, over and out.